I want to start by showing you a picture. So let me show you. What's this a picture of? Most of you probably already realize it's a picture of a planner. Well, why am I showing you a picture of a planner? Because I am a planner. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite quotes is from John Lennon, made famous because of the Beatles. He said that life is what happens while you're making other plans. And for me, that has really been the truth. But I, Laura Morrison, am learning to love the life that happens. I've been a planner in every part of my life. However, I have learned to love the life that happens in my pedagogical life, in my personal life, and in my professional life. So I'd like to share that with you. But most of you are probably already wondering, what in the world is pedagogical life? Well, pedagogical life just means my education. So in my educational life, I am learning to love the life that happens. I had big plans for my education. I always did really well in school. And when I graduated high school, I knew that I would go to college. I applied to a lot of colleges and I got accepted to most of them. But what happened was I got a full ride scholarship to a very small university. When I graduated high school, I graduated with 800 students. I left high school and went to a university called Pfeiffer University. So when I sat down at my high school graduation, I didn't know the person on my right or the person on my left because there were 800 people graduating with me that day. And the college that I ended up going to was Pfeiffer University. And in the entire 4 years there, from freshman to senior year, there were only 634 students the year I started. However, I loved Pfeiffer and I learned to love the life that happened there because I fell in love with communications and I took my first public speaking class. Now, I had to retake that public speaking class because every time we got to the first speech, I would withdraw. And on my final attempt, my third and final attempt, I finished that course. And it's also where I fell in love with the major of communications. I had a great communications professor who actually encouraged me to apply to grad school. Now that's not something that would have ever happened because I was the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree. But that professor convinced me to go ahead and continue my education at UNC Chapel Hill, where I earned a master's in communication studies. And at Chapel Hill, I fell in love with the community college system too. And I fell in love with teaching. So even though I never thought I'd be a teacher, I fell in love with teaching and I fell in love with the community college system because of my work at Chapel Hill. I was able to teach freshman and sophomore classes at Chapel Hill while I was there, and I really enjoyed teaching and helping people learn. But moreover, I did my master's thesis work with people who were downsized from a manufacturing plant. And many of those people, as a matter of fact, I interviewed 21 people and 14 of them returned to the local community college to get an education. And seeing the diversity of the population at that local community college and the difference that it made in people's lives, I fell in love with the community college system. I didn't finish my education there like I had thought that I would. Instead, I continued my education by pursuing a PhD at Regent University. I never finished that PhD, and we'll talk about why when we get to my personal life. But at Regent, I began with a plan to study media. And so what I did was I was studying media and I looked at films like Mr. Mom. I was really interested in the father's role in family and why we thought it was so funny if a dad was taking care of his children. And so I studied films like Mr. Mom, Mrs. Doubtfire, Daddy Daycare, and What to Expect When You're Expecting. Those films spanned 40 years and the audiences were still laughing at dads who couldn't take care of their children. And I presented that research at a conference, but as I was doing that research, another thing came about as a level of interest of mine, and that was social media. You see Facebook, Twitter, Tinder, Snapchat. I realize all of these are still in use today. The interesting thing is that when I started studying social media, Facebook was what all 15 to 25-year-olds were on, and Twitter was considered the old person's media. I realize now more of you are on Snapchat and care more about your latest streak than you would ever care about what gets posted on Facebook. But they're still pretty big social media, and amazingly enough, they affect what we know and what we see almost on a daily basis, more than movies do today. So both of those things tied into my job when I started studying this field of entertainment education. And entertainment education is how we use entertainment to educate. So how is it that certain campaigns like Designate a Driver that started in the 80s are still known and used today when most of us can't remember very many details about the War of 1812, even though we've probably learned it multiple times in our 12 years of education before college? Well, interestingly enough, I think there are some reasons for that. And so what I currently am really interested in is studying how entertainment education works so well, and then how we can apply those persuasive strategies and those educational theories that work in the media, whether it's digital media or movies or television, to our regular classrooms. And so I'm really interested in the place where those things overlap. So that's what I study now and what I was studying when I stopped pursuing my PhD. I am what they call ABD with my PhD, which means all but dissertation. I've finished all my coursework and taken my oral comps. I just never wrote my dissertation. And you may be wondering why I wouldn't write my dissertation. Well, I told you I've learned to love the life that happens. I've learned to love the life that happens not only in my pedagogical life, where I ended up pursuing all the way to a PhD when I thought I would just get a college degree, but I've learned to love the life that happens in my personal life. My personal life didn't turn out at all like I planned. I thought that I would grow up from that high school student to get married and travel the world with a spouse. And what actually has happened is that about 4 years ago, I became a single mom of 2 really small children. Ethan is my son and Caroline is my daughter. So let me tell you a little bit more about Ethan. Ethan is now finishing the 3rd grade, and he is my runner. I think he's very wise and very athletic. He, in this picture, was running up a hill, and I was complaining about the fact that I hate running up hills because I feel like we're getting nowhere. And about the time we got halfway up that hill, you see in the distance in that picture, or in this picture, sorry, he turns around and starts running backwards, and he says to me, "Mom, whenever you feel like we're not getting anywhere, just turn around and look behind you. When you look behind you, you can see just how far you've come." And that's pretty sage advice, not just in running, but in life. So he is my wise runner. Not to take away from the fact that he has an amazing little sister, and she is my amazing little girl. She is finishing kindergarten, and she loves people. As a matter of fact, she is really smart, what I would consider emotionally intelligent. She's really good at getting what she wants. This picture is of my best friend holding her when we went to pick her up from the airport. And we just love to have fun and laugh and smile. She giggles a lot. She laughs a lot. She's really interesting in the fact that she can get almost anything she wants. At one point, she wanted basketball shoes when she was 3. She asked me for them, and I told her no because she already had enough tennis shoes. She could wear those to play basketball in. So she told a family friend of ours that I wouldn't buy her basketball shoes, and he actually told her, "Well, I'll buy them for you this weekend." And she said, "Well, that won't work because I'm going to have my first basketball game first before that." And so then she went to her dad's house, and she told her dad that she was going to have to play basketball in her old tennis shoes, but it was okay because this family friend was going to buy her tennis shoes later. And of course, her dad took her that day and got her basketball shoes. So when I show up at her basketball game, she's got on her new basketball shoes. Caroline is one I will never have to worry about. She knows exactly how to get everything she needs. So we may not travel the world, but we do travel in paper towel and toilet paper ships that take off by teamwork. And honestly, this life is better than what I planned. That leaves me to one other thing. I pursued my education all the way to being ABD with my PhD, and stopped pursuing that when I became a single mom to raise these two beautiful children. But what I failed to mention so far is the entire time most of that was going on, I also had a very active professional life or career life. So in my professional life, I had big plans. I was going to graduate college and get a corporate job and make lots of money. And that didn't exactly happen. What did happen? Well, I graduated college. I've had about 6 to 7 different jobs when I was in college and afterwards. I worked in a manufacturing plant 3rd shift. I was a daycare teacher for 2-year-olds, and I was the lunch lady at a daycare. I managed a health club. I managed 6 departments in the health club, from the pool to the front desk to childcare to the pro shop. I also was a legal secretary for a while. I worked as the front office manager at a dental office. I've had a lot of varied positions, but the 2 most important for me are my job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car and my job at COA. So I want to tell you a little bit about why Enterprise is so important. Enterprise is so important because I learned 2 valuable lessons there. Those 2 lessons are this. First, you have to be able to speak in public because it will make a difference in your career. I started at Enterprise and I had a boss who could speak in public. And then about 2 years into my Enterprise career, I got a new boss that refused to speak in public. And I can tell you the difference between working for those 2 bosses was amazing. The boss that could speak in public really was able to ignite his team, recommended people for awards, really made us excited to work in Enterprise. And the boss that couldn't speak at public often delegated those roles to other people and caused problems when we were trying to get things done. Your ability to speak in public will not only affect your career, but everybody that you work with. So that matters. The other thing is, I believed in my ability to speak in public. And because I believed in my ability to speak in public, I was able to help someone that I worked with get what they wanted. Zig Ziglar says you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what you want. And I have to tell you, for me, I was able to do this with Enterprise. I was able to argue that one of my employees should get the chance to be promoted, even though he didn't meet the standards. And I had to have this conversation with multiple levels of management above me. I actually ended up in the vice president's office. Vice president's name was Steve Tudela. And when I walked into Steve's office, he said, "Oh, did you have a nice flight back from St. Louis?" And I said, "Yeah, how'd you know I was flying back?" He said, "My girlfriend was on your plane. She said you had a lot to say about Enterprise." I tried to remember everything I had said in that instant. And that's when he told me, "It's okay." She said, "You were very smart and intelligent, and you said a lot of great things about Enterprise." It was at that instant that I knew that Steve liked me, and I knew that the conversation we were about to have about this other employee was going to change everything. And because I had a good argument, I was able to appeal to what Steve believed in. I was able to get that argument across, and Steve did allow me to allow this person to put in for the new position. My belief in my ability to persuade somebody changed not only my career at that point, but it also changed this other young man's. So at Enterprise, I learned that you have to be able to speak in public and you have to believe in your ability to persuade other people. And I bring those to the classroom when I come to College of the Albemarle. So my job at College of the Albemarle is both that of a communications teacher and department chair for English and communications, because I truly believe in this role where I have anywhere from 75 to 150 students every semester, and I supervise anywhere from 10 to 25 people that work for the college. I really can impact those people, and they can impact other people. And because of that, my impact in the world will be greater. And I love that. I fell in love with communications a long time ago. I know that I love the life that happened. I loved the life that happened, that I started at Pfeiffer and became a communications major, got my master's at Chapel Hill, and went on to pursue a PhD at Regent. I love that I'm a single mom of 2 amazing children, Ethan and Caroline. And I love that I get to be department chair and communications teacher at COA. So, I am a planner, and my life has never worked out as I planned, but I love the life that happened. What about